Okay, so what I'd like to do here is create a number of pivot tables, but the first one, I want it to be a listing, a row by row listing of every product that we've sold out of this list here. In other words, I want to kind of get a condensed version of every one of these sales. I want to see it kind of broken down, or I should say broken down, but grouped, I guess, by the product name. Okay, but we're going to do it a little bit differently because if we do it one way, we get a lot of stacking, a lot of wasted space in there. There's a technique that we can employ where we can kind of shut off certain areas of the pivot table to give it more of a compact look, as you'll see here. So here's what we're going to do then. We're going to click anywhere on the data, go over to Insert, go to Pivot Table, hit OK. There we go. And the first thing I'm going to bring in is going to be the SKU number for the product. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the SKU into the rows area, just like that. Then I'm going to bring in the common name. That'll be the product name, just like that. And then I'm going to bring in the color. I'll just put that right underneath that other one there. I'll bring this up so you can see it better there. Okay, and then we're going to bring in the bloom. That'll be like that. And then we'll go a little bit further down. We'll bring in the cost of it, which will bring in, okay, here's the cost. That's not the, I guess that would be the cost of goods, but it's the cost for each one of those products. In other words, the actual cost of it that we owe for it, right? Do that one there, and then we'll also bring in the retail. Now the retail would be the price. So that's what we're going to sell it for here. So drag that underneath cost, just like that. All right. And then, well, we'll go further with it, I guess, and then I'll show you how to get this. But you'll notice how it's giving us that staircasing effect, and that's a horrid thing, you know, because if you've got a lot of product and a lot of fields that you're including, that thing is just going to go on for many, many feet. I think what I'll do too is I'm going to detach our panel here. Kind of pull that off, bring it up to the top here. And that way I've got a lot more room to display with here. How about that? All right. So we're up to, we've got the price in there. Now, the other thing I want to know is how many we sold of these things, right? Well, that particular field is the quantity field. So I'm going to bring that underneath it as well. All right. And then we're going to bring in the revenue. So that'll be the total sale here. There we go. And then we also need to see the profit. Now, we don't have the profit in here yet, so we're going to go ahead and create that. So we'll go to Analyze here, go to Fields and Items, Calculated Field, call it PR, and then the formula for this spot right here is going to be what? It's going to be the total sale, right, minus the total cost, right? Hit OK on that, and there's our profit. All right, so far, and I'm just going to pull this back in now. So far we've got kind of a mess here. All right, I mean, it's horrible. So what we're going to do is get it so where all of these fields all end up going straight across. So instead of going dun, 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 it'll be whoop, cross here, and so on and so forth for each of them, because you got the Mexican hat here, right? You got all this in here. I mean, it just goes on and on. Eventually, you'll come across the next product as well. So just trust me. So how are we going to fix this? How are we going to get us where all this stuff is going along the side there? Well, while you're in the pivot, if you go over here to the Design tab, you'll see Subtotals. Or actually, let's start with this. We're going to go to Report Layout, and we're going to tell it that we want to do the report layout as a tabular. Now, right now, it's in what we call the compact form. That's what you're kind of seeing there, right? We're going to bring it in and bring it in as a tabular, so everything is just straight across instead of being staircase down. So click on the tabular form, and we get that. All right. Now the next thing we want to do while we're in the pivot table is we're going to go over here to the report. I've got the report layout here we just did. So we're going to go here to the subtotals, right? And we're going to tell it that we want no subtotals. We're going to click onto that. And there we go. Now we're almost there, but we have one little thing we need to correct, and that is the quantity. Now the problem here is it's listing out for this particular product row after row. Each of the rows that we had in the data that had to do with the Mexican hat, those are the transactions you're seeing there. What we want to do is we want to get all this summarized, right? So instead of having those fields over in the rows area, we're going to put a few of them over here in the value. So we're going to take the quantity field, right, which will be this one right here, right? Now watch this. I take the quantity, put it over here, and it does that for us. And then we're going to go ahead and take we got the price already. The price is okay there. So we'll bring in the total sale to there, and that completely revamps it. So now what we're looking at here is a much better pivot. Now I think what we can also do to kind of just fix up the column width, so we can just click somewhere in here, go over here to Analyze, go to Pivot Table, go to our options, hit the merge and center, hit OK on that one, and gets everything all kind of fixed up there. But when I do that though, it actually does center everything, which makes it kind of look pretty bad. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit undo on that, and instead I'm just going to select all those columns, point to one of them, one of the borders, double click it, and that will get it just right. So that's probably the best way to do it. You know, just the simpler the better. And then of course what we can do is we can go here to this field here, double click it, number format, number, use the comma, no decimal places, and we get that one fixed. And then the same thing with this last one here, double click it, number format, number, 0, and then commas, and there we go. Now the only problem with what we have so far is that this is showing us all the product that we've sold and all that information about it over the many years. What you might want to do is be able to look at this data and say, oh, that's for the year 2025, or that's for the year 2022. Okay, how could we do that? Now before, we've used the filters here, and on previous videos, if you've been watching the whole series here, we've used the slicer. All right, well, we have a third item that we can use, and it's called the timeline. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to open up some area here to work with. So I'm just going to maybe just kind of highlight maybe about this much room here, or this many rows here. Right click it, hit insert, and kind of just push everything down. Okay. Now, while I'm on the pivot, anywhere on it, I go back into Analyze, and there's a choice here called Insert Timeline. So we click onto that. We tell it we want it for the order date, hit OK, and there it is. And I can take that. Now I was off just by a little bit, huh? So I'll just maybe do a couple more rows here. Right click, insert. Okay. So now, there we go. We can go to the timeline options. I can pick a color that I want to use, whatever. And I'll go ahead and I'll just kind of make it the width of this whole thing here, see? Not that it really matters because you're looking at the years here. As I scroll to the left here, you can see the rest of the items here. So now, here's the deal. It's broken into months. I can click on it here and choose years. There it is, right? And if I'm just going to go by the years, I can then maybe click onto this, shrink it up a little bit. I don't need all that room there. Maybe bring it out just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so something like that. So now, if somebody's looking at this, they'll say, oh, I guess that's all of those years. Now what I can do is I can say, okay, I just want to see just the year 2022, right? So I click on the 2022, And there's the sales and all the other statistics for 2022. So that's what we've sold in 2022. All right. Now, if I go and I expand this just by dragging it out like that, then I can actually see more in here. So, you know, there's more, you got bigger numbers because now we have 3 years worth of data. Now I can also change this to show quarters. All right. And if I do that, and if I decide I want to keep it like that, then I might have to make this a little bit wider so I can see everything, and maybe even wider to go. So it's a little bit wider than my worksheet. If you're really put off by that, you can always make your columns wider so they all kind of match up with it, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So at this point, if I hit my clear filter button there, that brings it back to seeing everything. And now, look at this. I can say, I want to see for the 2023, I want to see Q1 and Q2, just the first 2 quarters of 2023. So by seeing that, that's what you see here. So pretty slick, right? And it's just an interesting aspect there. Now I can go ahead and clear this, all right? Now what I can also do is add maybe some slicers to this, all right? So I can go back into, make sure I'm on the pivot table here. Go to my Analyze, Insert Slicer, and let's just say I'll pick the rep. All right, so I'll go with rep, and I'll also go with maybe the maybe zone. All right, those two. Hit OK. There's my rep and zone. I can put that there. Make this a little bit wider. And then while I'm in here, I can say, give me 3 columns. So I can do something like that. All right. I can go to my zone, maybe put the zone underneath here. Make that just as wide. All right. And make that maybe 3 columns. And then I can go ahead, if I'm a perfectionist, because it'll probably bug me, I will bring that up and get that all fitting perfectly. So now, you click on to Atoms. There's Atom sales, right? Clear that out. If I click on to, let's say, the Nordic sales, there's all my Nordic sales. All right. What's kind of interesting is I picked the Nordic sales, and these are the only 6 reps that deal with Nordic. So that's back to what we were talking about towards the beginning of all these videos. Now, if I clear that out, I'll just hit my little clear button here, right? So I'll go back to here, and I say I just want to see the first. Well, let's say I want to see the 4 quarters of 2022. I do that, and it just so happens that all my reps in all the territories, pretty much something was sold. You know, sold by them, sold to these areas, and all that. So no problems there. If I just click on to, let's say, maybe the 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter, I might end up, as I'm clicking onto some of these, I might end up seeing this change, but of course it won't do it for me because every quarter of every year, all the reps have sold at least one thing to at least one of the territories, right? So that's why it's all in there. But my point is that it's kind of an interesting aspect overall. Now, if I wanted to change this up a little bit and change this back to being just years, right? Then I can take that and move this back in here maybe, clear this out. There it is. And then maybe I can even take this, put that there, make it a little bit wider, something like that. Give it some more columns. And bring that up like that. And then I can maybe even take this guy here, make it really wide, and make it into something like that. So if that was important, and of course if you're going to do that, then you probably want to maybe put some extra rows in here. And there we go. Oh, something like that, but maybe that's too many. See, I'm getting bad. All right, there we go. Okay, so there you have it. Pretty neat little situation. Now, if I wanted to expand this just a little bit, I could actually have all this data broken down, let's say by company. All right. So to give you an idea here, I'll go over into my, well, this is not very good there. So I can go back into here, find the company. There it is, right? Drag that into the very top of this, all right? So get it very top right there. There's Alfred's Futterkisk, all right? And then here's our, probably bring that a little bit. But overall, kind of go in there, make those wider, I guess, right? Anyway, so now I've got it broken down by company. And I can go here, there's Alfred, there's Anna, and so forth. So I can see their sales and their sales breakdown. All right, so kind of interesting.